everyone, how's it going today? Today we are going to talk about Newton's law. So let's get started. First we are going to look at Newton's first law. A body at rest remains at rest. Anybody, for example, a book lying on the table, alright, a person standing on the floor, a car parked in the parking lot, they will remain there at the same position unless some force is applied. They will not change their position. A body at rest remains at rest. And body in motion, it continues its uniform velocity unless some external force is applied. For example, you have some ball. If you ignore air resistance and gravity, then the ball that you have thrown, it will continue its motion and it will never stop. If there is no external unbalanced force, the body will continue its state of rest or uniform motion. So this first law is also called law of inertia. What is inertia? Inertia is the property of a body due to which it retains or maintains its state of rest or uniform motion. Everything in this universe likes to be at rest or in uniform motion. That means zero acceleration. So in other words, we can say everything in this universe wants to stay with zero acceleration. In other words, you can also say that every object in this universe has some resistance to acceleration. Whenever somebody will want to move an object, so it will offer some resistance, and that property, basically maintaining its state of rest and uniform motion, is called inertia. Basically, what is inertia? It is the quantitative measurement of the mass. Alright, so greater the mass, greater the inertia. The truck has more mass, it has greater inertia. The car has less mass as compared to truck, so it has less inertia. If you want to move a car, then you will need at least 4 to 5 people to move the car. If you want to move the truck, you need at least maybe 20 people to move the truck. So that means the truck has greater mass, so it has greater inertia. It has greater property to resist acceleration. So let's talk about second law of motion. When a force is applied in body, it produces acceleration in body because everybody wants to be at rest or in uniform motion. So suppose a body is at rest and we are applying some force over it. Definitely it will move. The acceleration will be produced. Its velocity will change. The initial velocity was 0 and it will start moving and the velocity will change. It will attain some final velocity. That means some acceleration will be produced. So when a force is applied on a body, in the same direction of force, acceleration is produced. Alright, so the greater the force, the greater will be the acceleration. The greater the force, the greater will be the acceleration. The first thing, the force and acceleration are directly proportional. Greater the force, greater the acceleration. Alright, the acceleration produced in a body will be directly proportional to the applied force, but the acceleration produced in a body will be inversely proportional to the mass of an object. Suppose we can take an example of car and truck. The car has less mass as compared to the truck. When we apply force on the car, the less acceleration will be produced. If the same force is applied on the truck, it will never move because it needs greater force because it has greater inertia. So you have to apply a greater force to move it. So greater the force, greater will be the acceleration. If we apply more force, if we use more powerful engine to move the truck, the more acceleration will be produced and the truck will start moving. It will accelerate. So greater the force, greater will be the acceleration. So the produced acceleration will be inversely proportional to the mass. The truck has greater mass, so less acceleration will be produced. If the force is kept same, let's take an example of car. The car has a less mass as compared to the truck, so greater acceleration will be produced as compared to the truck. So acceleration produced due to the force is directly proportional to the applied force and inversely proportional to the mass of an object. If you combine these two equations, so you can write like this: F is equal to ma. So this is the applied force and this is the mass of an object and this is an acceleration produced in an object. So when a force is applied in a body, it produces acceleration in the same direction of force, which is directly proportional to the applied force and inversely proportional to the mass. The unit of force is Newton. So 1 Newton would be equal to 1 kilogram meter per second square. The unit of mass is kilogram and unit of acceleration is meter per second square. So 1 Newton would be equal to 1 kilogram meter per second square. Now let's talk about third law of motion. Action and reaction are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. What is action and what is reaction? You know, if a book is lying over the table, so the book has some weight and that weight acts vertically downward. So why this book is not falling on the ground? Why it is on the table? The answer is because the table is applying the opposite force in the reverse direction, I mean upwards. So that reactional force basically balances the action. So action and reaction are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction because the weight is downwards. Reactional force applied by the table is upwards, so both forces are balancing each other. That's why the book is not falling on the ground. So this is the example of third law. What is third law? Action and reaction are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. We can take the example of walking. When we walk, we apply force on the feet backwards and the earth pushes us forward. So we can take the example of rocket propulsion. What happened in the case of rocket? The rocket has a greater mass. If you want to lift the rocket, you need to create a great thrust. So how to create this thrust? We need to expel the gases with high pressure, with high velocity at a higher rate downwards. So as a reaction, the rocket will move upwards. So the action is downwards and reaction in upwards. You can take an example of bullet. When bullet is fired from a gun, so what happens? The bullet has a smaller mass but high velocity. It moves in a forward direction. So as it is fired, the bullet moves forward. So as a reaction, the person who is holding the gun, he gets recoil in the backward direction. This is the reaction. What is the action? Action is the fire of the bullet in the forward direction. All for every action, there is opposite and equal reaction. This is what we call Newton's third law. So that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video with a new lesson. So till then, take care. Bye-bye. Allah